All right, thank you, everyone. We have one more session before lunch. Jenn stayed with us, so she's going to be here. But our next session is going to be focused on performance marketing, and her panelists are coming to the stage now.
All right. You all already know me, so I'll spare the second introduction, but would love to go down the line, starting with Alex. If you all could give an intro on who you are, where you work, and what your experience has been with Creator and paid social.
Sure. Hi, I'm Alex McClay. I spent 4 years at Image Skincare, which is the #1 spa brand, and we onboarded Cohley about 3 years ago. I recently just made a change. I'm now the Chief Growth Officer at Foria Wellness, which is a leader in intimate and hormonal health. And yet to onboard Cohley, but I hope to do so shortly. And my world is everything performance, organic, brand, and digital.
Hi, Ryan McGonagill. I'm the VP of Content at Centerfield Media. I sit at an interesting intersection, I think. We're a customer acquisition company, and I'm not actually responsible for paid media, but I am responsible for the creative and the content that fuels our paid team. So I'm excited to be here.
My name is Johnny. I am with SAC Designs. If you've been a child or you have children, you know my drinkware. We make primarily kids licensed drinkware. I guess I'm the only one, an actual client of Cohley. So we've been with Cohley for almost 5 years, I think. It was the second thing I did after I was hired at SAC was to sign up with Eric and Tom and the rest of the team.
Thank you. All right, so we're talking about paid social today. Paid social is a sphere that's changing faster than ever. One of the big updates that is all of the buzz that has been fueling a lot of those changes has been Andromeda updates. We're going to start there. Tell me about how Andromeda has changed your paid social strategies, your content strategies, and how you work with creators.
Yeah, I'll give you an example from Image Skincare. So we were awarded a Best of Class seal from Vogue in the magazine. Incredibly powerful, and so we put it on a still ad in Meta. It was our top performing ad for a year and a half. No fatigue whatsoever because we kept it top of funnel. And then Andromeda comes along, and that ad now is not performing at all because they're looking for net new in terms of creative. So all that iteration, A/B testing, trying different hooks, doesn't work anymore. And we're still at Foria trying to figure out how to kind of feed the beast with enough net new content, how to leverage AI, which I'm sure everybody in this room is trying to do, but do so in a way that's on brand, because you have to feed it enough stuff to not get slopped back out, and I don't think we've cracked the code on it yet.
I feel like we're in a similar position. So for me and my background, I started in content marketing and PR, and it was really about making the best piece of content out there that nobody can replicate. And so to go into this world of you kind of still need to do that, but you need to do it at 1, 2, or 500x is difficult to crack. And so that's been the biggest impact, I think, so far, is how can we ramp up the volume that we need to see results while not diminishing the quality at the same time.
But it's not just volume, though. It's also diversity, right? So 30%, I think it is. If your ads or your content is 30% similar, it's treated as the same piece of content. So more content, more creators, different styles, different backgrounds, different products.
I have an anecdote to share here. I saw across a study of 3,000 advertisers, the Andromeda update triggered a decline in ROAS by 7%, landing page conversion rates dropping 17%, ROAS collapsing 35%, and CPM spiking 28% year over year in Q1 of 2026. And I think the gut reaction at first was like, did Meta break something? Why are none of our ads performing? But I think the actual diagnosis is creative pipelines were just never built to scale, and now we're needing to find ways to do so. So I want to talk about this kind of dual strategy of brand-produced content versus creator content, because rarely does creator content completely replace your in-house brand-produced content. I know, Johnni, you just mentioned you just created a couple of commercials, highly produced or high-end commercially produced content. Talk to me about how you're divvying up your budgets, your team bandwidth on your in-house brand-produced content for paid versus creator content for paid.
I think for us, in-house, it's less for social and more for the PDPs, and we lean into Cohley and to other platforms for social content. I think it's important that you get fresh eyes on your product. The first panel we're talking about, let the creators create. I could not agree more. Sometimes that's not, possible for legal reasons, or we just launched a partnership with St. Jude's Research Hospital, and there's going to be some tighter guide rails on those briefs. But usually, Emily, who writes our briefs with Nicole, we're pretty loose about what we want. We have some things we'd like you to say. If you don't hit all four, it's okay. If the content is good, and I was talking to Ryan out back, I think as a brand too, and this doesn't really answer the question, just forget your own taste. I'll see a video, I'm like, I don't like that, but I'm not everyone. And I might not even be the target demographic for this particular, right? So lean into it, trust the creators.
I think what I was picking on from earlier sessions this morning, that is kind of like confirming what I already thought, but we've had a great brand team and video team that was really great at creating brand videos. Like, high production value, took forever, but they came out really well. And I think one lesson we had to learn, especially as we got into e-commerce, is that approach is like antithetical to how video is going to sell e-commerce products. I think there's a place for both, but what I'm really, or what's really making an impression on me is the fact that UGC is more and more effective, and I think it will continue to be that way. But then there's also these different types of authenticity or UGC that will work for different platforms. So, for example, if we're creating videos for Meta ads, the approach is going to be different and the structure is going to be different than TikTok Shop versus Instagram Shop, which, maybe they want you to think it's a separate shopping function like TikTok, but it's not, at least not yet. So I apologize for rambling, but it's interesting how we're getting into these different subsets of UGC and with branded content.
Is there a certain point, I mean, not to date ourselves, but I think all four of us have been in digital marketing long enough where when we started in digital marketing, brand-produced creative was all we had. Was there a point when you realized that brand-produced creative wasn't really cutting it in social ads, and you had to make the first foray into creator marketing in order for your ads to succeed?
At Image Skincare, our most successful ad that we ran on CTV, so it's like a TV commercial streaming, was we took 4 different UGC pieces of content and sliced it together, and it was the best performing we did. We actually had a huge TV commercial shoot that we've done for holiday, which is kind of like a big deal. It was very stylized. It was very ran like a Macy's holiday commercial. UGC beat it every time on every metric.
Are there any examples where you still see the brand-produced creative work better in ads? Any use cases, or is it really all just creator content on the paid side now? And as Johnni mentioned, maybe brand-produced creative for PDPs or other use cases?
I'll speak. So we actually run UGC on our PDPs. It's the highest engagement, highest converting pieces of content, more so than still photography or anything else. We still see in Meta some good performance as it relates to brand created content. I think it's just a balance. And what we've done at Foria is we have brand people who are also content creators, so they can go ahead and produce that brand content, but as a creator would, which really gives authenticity. So I think the more teams are doing that in-house, bringing creators and brand together.
I think we do more the still ads. So photos typically perform better when it's brand. The video content, 100% is creators. We don't have the resources to do those in-house. We don't have the know-how of the platforms. We're talking about TikTok Shop. I'm in my mid-40s. That is not my platform. And I'm okay with that. So we lean into the people that know that platform, and it is yours. Same for Meta. It's continuously trusting the creators that you hire to know that platform and go through their portfolio, do all of the things that a brand does every time they look at a creator, but then let them loose.
Ryan, from an agency lens, what is the most common mistake that you see brands make when it comes to volume and refresh rates or the creative that they're leveraging in paid media?
I think it's kind of been a learning experience for me too, and something I've had to educate, people in the organization on, but how in tune with it and how like on top of it you have to be every single day to have it really make an impact. So I guess an example that I'm thinking of specifically is if I have a creator I'm working with and they're selling, I don't know, we sell these sour candies on TikTok Shop that go like hotcakes, right? Who would have thought? And she sees that a video pops off and it makes, incremental sales 2, 3, 5x, whatever it might be. She's immediately going to make 30 to 50 other videos that they're not brand new. It's just different hooks, maybe one different sentence, but continuing to try to capitalize on that creative variety. And I don't think I realized the level of effort, frankly, that takes, especially now, to get any meaningful data, really.
I think it's a great point and a great segue into our next topic about how TikTok Shop and Instagram shopping are also changing the paid social scape. So, what you're mentioning is creators that are self-incentivized to continue creating content because they're earning a commission, right? In the paid side, how are you thinking about these shop ads differently? Is it a different budget than your traditional paid social ads? Is it all from the same? And how are you optimizing towards TikTok Shop, Instagram shopping, or are you at all? I know we've had some varied experiences here foraying into the shop ads.
I think for us, it's more so about how we're setting up our partnerships and who we're working with. Because again, if someone's making a video to sell sour candy and it's on TikTok Shop, like I need something very different from you than I need from someone who's going to do a brand promotion on Facebook for all of the different reasons, audience, etc. So
I think for TikTok, for us, it's a question of getting so much content out there that the algorithm believes you're going viral. We did a trial October, November last year with Cohley, where I think it was 300 or 400 videos were released in a matter of 48 hours. And the result of that was that from the time someone pressed buy the product to when my back end was synchronizing, that product was gone. So we sold out of like 8 different products within a 20-minute time span, and then had to spend the next 2 weeks calling people and saying, sorry. But
was it just the TikTok shop inventory or across like a halo effect on other retailers?
That
channels
was
as well?
my D2C inventory that was just gone. 5 to 6 different SKUs, and we could see, one, it was Nightmare Before Christmas Tumblr, disappeared in 5 minutes, and then they just moved on to the next variant on that PDP, and it until that was gone. And so for TikTok, I think it's more volume, where it might be a different approach on other channels.
So at Image and also at Foria, we've struggled with social commerce. Our demographic skews much older, and honestly, we have a hard time finding enough high quality, they call it silver influencers. So, influencers for UGC over the age of 50 that are going to have way more credibility than a 25-year-old. And also, if you think our audience is just not adopting social commerce at a rate that, younger audiences are. So it's something we sort of struggle with, but definitely TikTok is still like all about discovery, and being out there is critical. We just don't see the conversion. We don't even really metric it because it's top of funnel and discovery for us.
I think that is a common story we hear with brands that have struggled on TikTok Shop is if it's not getting immediate returns, it's really hard to justify the continued investment. But it is a challenge. I mean, we're TikTok partners ourselves, and TikTok continues to push us to remind brands that it takes a long-term investment in that content to succeed. Like, you have to pour your efforts into generating enough volume consistently in order to succeed. But, depending on your product category too, it's much easier to drive conversions to start sometimes than it is for other brands. We find high ticket items that are not impulse purchases often struggle in the start. Beauty and health and wellness tends to work really well, where you can have that immediate, find those immediate sales even from like a small investment in the beginning, whereas like some other products just aren't seeing that immediate success. So just something to keep in mind. And how do you think about driving your ads towards D2C versus retailers? What does that strategy look like when you're investing your paid media dollars? Is it focused on D2C and then you kind of get a halo effect from retailers, or do you ever drive your landing pages directly to the retailers too?
Pretty easy for us. We are really in one big box retailer, which is Ulta. So we mostly drive to D2C. Obviously, we want to own that first party data and have a relationship with that customer. We are about to start dabbling and driving to Amazon. But it's simpler for us. I think Zach Brands, you're like in every retailer everywhere. So I don't know how you guys handle it.
We have separate buckets. So we have our Target team, we have our Walmart team, and then we have my little D2C team, and we all dip into Cohley to get that content, and then it's, if we have 10 posts a week organically, 3 go to Walmart, 3 go to Target, and I get 1, but most of my content from the D2C side is paid. Because we don't have the brand recognition that a Stanley or a Yeti or Simple Modern does, we have to pay to play, and seen great results. It gets harder when you send them to a retailer. Amazon is a big black box of no attribution whatsoever, which is frustrating when you're trying to prove, the ROI on that campaign.
We don't manufacture our own products, so we don't do D2C, but we will do either retail partnerships with big box stores or big online stores, or we'll do direct brand partnerships. It really just depends. There's one retail partnership we have that's incredibly strict, and one that you wouldn't think is super lenient, but they are, and one gets better results. So it just depends.
Yeah, and I think like what we're seeing at Cohley, just like across the landscape, is it depends, like what you mentioned, but sometimes when you do create that co-branded content, like having creators show both like the retailer logo and your own logo together in the content, whether you're just posting it on organic or actually putting paid media behind the post, the buyers also get really excited. sometimes end up using co-op budget also to give their brand's budget to promote the retailer. But it's definitely a good question to think about how you divvy up your resources, right? So, but just something to think about, and it is a capability on Cohley for sure. Okay, I want to talk about now the investment in paid versus organic strategy, because organic impressions are falling. And I'm kind of wondering how you look at your investments in paid versus organic. Is organic just like the warm-up and you have to pour all of your dollars into paid in order to succeed? Or how are you strategizing between the two?
So for us, we're really crafting out a strategy that's going to be to feed the LLMs and try to gain share of voice in AI. So that requires an investment off platform across a multitude of different things to get that authority and that education. So that's really where we're looking to invest. And we haven't quite done it yet. We're in sort of the building phases, but that's really where I think everybody's going with organic.
This is my experience. This is not the case for all businesses and not what I believe, but you have to follow the dollars, and our dollars are not an organic, and so that's what it boils down to. It's not really much more complicated than that.
I think our organic content tends to skew to a softer focus. We have several partnerships. One is with Project Happiness. That is always an organic post that typically will get boosted, but pay to play, we have to spend money to get in front of people, and our price points are such that it doesn't take a lot of thought to purchase my product. They're relatively cheap, fairly easy to understand. It's a water bottle, so I don't have to spend a lot of time explaining it. So for me, it's the designs. It's it's Bluey, it's Mickey. Right now, it's K-pop Demon Hunters, and we have to put money behind those.
So I'm hearing from you all that paid media is extremely important. It's essential. That's where you're investing most of your resources into. But then what is the time and place to invest in organic? Do followers still matter? Does the content, is that just like a place for your customers to do research? How are you seeing, or how are you investing on the organic side?
I think something that I've tried to speak to at SAC is to stop looking at the vanity metrics and start looking at actual what matters. It's sort of like what you were saying with AI, right? The LLMs, AEO, GEO. Does that mean SEO is that? No, it does not. Does a focus on paid mean that organic can be disregarded? No, not in my opinion. Like I said, we use it for a little bit softer. We do like the product posts. They never tend to do as well as tugging at heartstrings, which you can do with organic easily. But you need the diversity of content. You need access to a massive library of creators where you can find that diversity, I guess, is my point.
One interesting thing I've seen over the past year is like there's this perceived value and actual value with our business and how paid and organic are going. And so our clients, whether it's direct brand partnerships or retail marketplaces, are really happy with the paid results, but it's imperative to them that organic pages that we're working with them on look just pristine, like top of the line imagery, copywriting, whatever it might be, because it's important to them that consumers do not see them as this media arbitrage. They're an actual brand giving like value, even if that content is not driving sales or other intangible or like intangibles like follower counts or engagement or whatever. They don't really care. It's how it appears to the consumer.
I'm going to piggyback on that. We have a high number of followers on our social media, and talking about vanity metrics. So something that our social media manager has always been looking at is, obviously engagement, and to get that engagement, more intimate sexual health products. They tend to be a little use humor, be more tittillating, and you get the engagement. But is it the right level of engagement? And how do you balance out sort of brand versus those, I'll call it vanity metrics, because I think the algorithms have sort of skewed everybody towards looking at those vanity metrics and trying to game the system. But I think you still have to stay very true to brand.
Alex, I also want to double click on that since you have experience working at a larger brand like Image Skincare, $100 million brand, versus Foria, who a smaller $10 million brand. Is there a dichotomy in how you had to manage organic versus paid? Do you see that the teams are more siloed when you're at a larger brand and paid and organic don't really talk to each other? It's a completely different strategy. Like how have you seen that evolved at the different brands you've worked with?
Yeah, it's a great question. Actually, at the larger brand, at Image, I think we were more in sync with paid and organic, and I think it was just teams that had worked together for a long time, super collaborative culture. At Foria, we struggle with that. Organic and paid don't really talk to one another, and so that's part of what I'm trying to break down those barriers. We're actually just going to start whitelisting content and taking some of our high-performing UGC, putting it into paid, which worked really well for us at Image. So I don't think it matters really on the size of the company so much as just structure of the team and how the teams operate.
Awesome. That is a great segue into our next topic, which is whitelisting. So whitelisting is the act of putting paid media behind a creator's account instead of your brand's account. In Cohley, what we have turnkey within platform is boosting, where you can take an influencer partnership brief and put paid media behind a specific post for a creator and have that have the ad come from the creator's account. So what has been your experience with whitelisting? Have you seen it consistently drive performance that is working better than ads from your brand account? Is it varied? What have you all been seeing?
It's been a mixed bag for us.
I think mixed, yeah. I think someone said it earlier that influencer audience size used to be such a huge factor in do we work with them or not, and I think it's the opposite. Now I care so much more about their creative quality. I don't really care about their audience because I have my own. So do you fit with our brands? And that whitelisting effort has been much more effective than going after something like just audience size and then trying to make it work.
We had a creator post on, I think it was TikTok, and we whitelisted that, and we put spend behind it. It ran for 6 months. This was before Andromeda, but it ran for 6 months, and we ended up at a 5x return on that. We've had others that we thought were fantastic, and they basically ran for 12 hours, and we took them down because there was no results from it. Not 12 hours, but a short time. So mixed bag for sure.
So if it's a mixed bag, how are you deciding which creators or which posts to put that spend behind?
The post that exploded for us was a speech therapist that spoke about how the straw on this particular tumbler was great for developing speech. And so that, for some reason, resonated more than turning it upside down and it doesn't drip water out. So sometimes you just gotta look at what is performing and take some chances, I would say.
Yeah, I think the expert creator space is an interesting one, and We find brands kind of struggle to scale content across these like expert creatives, like a dermatologist for a skincare brand or a vet for a pet care brand. And what we always recommend to brands is if instead of looking to scale the number of creators you work with, find a couple that work really well for you and put spend behind their content to increase eyeballs. So I think that's the speech pathologist, I think, is an example of like an expert creator that worked for you. And what about, do you ever just see what works well on organic and then boost what works well there? And that's kind of how you tie the organic and paid strategy? Or has that not really worked either and been a mixed bag?
It's definitely worked for us. Like the UGC example I said about, putting it into CTV. I think if you have good content, it should work across platforms. We've called it like the collapse of the funnel. So good content should work at the top, the middle, and the bottom of funnel. And I'm sure lots of people in here might debate me on that, but we've seen that work. So it really just comes down to that right piece of content, which is incredibly hard to actually get.
I have a timer that's about to scream at me again. So I want to open up the floor to any questions for our panelists up here. Raise your hand and Kenzie will come to you.
I'm going to do a little lab, get
It's
my
a good
steps
hustle,
in.
Kenzie.
Good thing I wore comfortable shoes.
Hi, everyone. Thank you. Question, how are you dealing with the shift from SEO in the more keyword-driven aspect to AI search and the topics? How do you figure that out? Because SEO is well understood, AI search is not well understood, or it's evolving. But there was a TechCrunch article that kind of stunned me that says AI search is dead. And I'm like, okay, hard pivot. How are you guys dealing with that?
Insofar as content, it's about for us, it's starting the story on the home page, continuing it on the collection page, and then the product page. So if we wait until the product page to tell you that this tumbler is leak proof, we've wasted. So we have to start early, and then it's a different way of writing. It's your copy has to be the answers that the LLMs are looking for. So when someone types in what's the best tumbler for a toddler, we have to answer that question without specifically writing out what's the best tumbler for a toddler. So it's a paradigm shift in terms of the copy. We are working with some specialists, and then it's the technical side of it. You have to put schema and all kinds of nerd stuff on your pages, but it's more about answering questions and not showing up for a specific word now.
And I think brands can start pretty simply. You can take existing content. One thing we did is we took all of our existing blogs and then had them rewritten and on the byline by the dermatologist or the KOL, so that feeds the authority score out there on the internet. So it's taking existing content like FAQs and again feeding in that copy that the AIs are looking for. So I think there's small ways you can start to start building that share of voice.
Amazing. I'm so sorry, that's all the time we have today for questions. But again, grab us at happy hour, at lunch, if you have additional follow-ups for us. And thank you so much to the panelists.
One quick note for everyone, we are going to start lunch. We'll kick off sessions back in here in an hour.